Hey, this is Corey from Wolfpack Woodcraft, where we help you become a little more self-reliant in each video. And today we're going to be talking about bugging in or bugging out. Now, Urban Prepper did a video where he listed 30 different events and he put them each in a bug in or bug out category, and I thought that was an amazing idea. It's quite an old video if I remember right. I will link it in the description box down below if you want to check out his video. We'll also leave a Google document down in the description box so you can print off. I had to write out all 30 things, but you can just print it off and you can have it for your record. You can go over it just on your computer if you want, whatever is easier for you. But I'm going to go through them, and I'm going to go through the mindset Caroline and I had for each one. The first one is flooding. Now, of course, we're going to bug out. We're going to bug out. We don't want to drown. We don't want to get stuck in this. And so we're going to have to escape. One of the things that I noticed when I put this list together is that communication is huge, right? I never really put a lot of time or energy into thinking about communications, but we need to have a way of getting information, right? If there's a flood, chances are it's taking out power lines, it's taking out everything. I still need to know where is safe, right? If it's flooding from the south and I try to bug in south, I'm putting myself in a worse situation than I'm originally in. I need to know where it's coming from. I need to know where the safe areas are. I need to know where to go. I need to know how long this is going to last. There's a lot of information that comes with flooding that I have to have access to. And having a good radio, especially in your vehicle while you're traveling, is a good idea. Next is an earthquake. Living in Minnesota, I don't really have to deal with earthquakes, but we would bug in an earthquake. We would go outside. The chances of having a really bad earthquake in Minnesota are slim to none. But we go outside. Hopefully the house stays all right, and we just come back inside. Shouldn't be a big deal where I live. Power outages, again, we would bug in. I think we've all dealt with power outages. Now, the main thing is we need to have a way of heating and cooling. And so that's been a big focus. It's not that big of a deal. Usually the power's back on in a few hours. The furnace doesn't even kick in for a few hours. So we would be completely fine. We've always been completely fine. The real problem is if there was an extensive power outage, which we'll get into probably later. Next is fire. If the house were to catch on fire, we would bug out. Right? You don't want to be stuck inside a burning building, and so we have to have things in place so that we can escape the house and not get stuck inside of it. Next is martial law. Martial law, we would bug in. The advantage that I have is I live in the middle of nowhere, meaning when there's riots and when there's martial law and when things go crazy, they don't go crazy where I live. I am a 30-minute drive to the closest town, meaning no one comes out here, right? People from here go there, but people from there never come here. And so I'm pretty safe where I'm at. The thing that we thought about is the people from there bugging out to here. How are we going to deal with that? And so that is something that we've had to keep in mind. Next is heat wave or drought. In 2021, we had to deal with a drought here in Minnesota. The whole entire state was in a drought. And we had to conserve water. We had to, we bugged in. We still had to go to work. We still had to make our living. We still had to do what we do. But there was a drought. And we had to take care of that. We had to deal with it. And we did bug in. Next is a gas leak. Again, we would bug out. But it's not really a bug out situation. We would bug out, we would call the fire department, we would make sure that they took care of it. Once it's taken care of, we would just come back in. You know what I mean? And so we might have to spend a night or two in a hotel or at a friend or family's home, but it's not really a bug out situation where we have to take our bug out bags and bug out to the middle of nowhere. You know what I mean? It would just be a couple day inconvenience. War, we would bug in. Again, we live in an area that's away from everything else, and so we would have nowhere to bug out to. Tsunami, living in Minnesota, we don't have to deal with that. Wildfire, we would bug out. That would be difficult because we would have to find a new permanent place to live, right? We would have to find somewhere we can live while this all gets rebuilt. You know what I mean? And so that would be difficult, but we have preparations in place for that. Next is a tornado. We've dealt with tornado warnings. It seems like every spring, summer, and fall, there's tornado warnings, there's tornado sirens. You bug in, we would go into the storm shelter, we go into the basement, and we would ride it out, right? You can't outrun a tornado. The best you can do is just go into your safe space, make sure that whatever happens, you're ready to deal with the aftermath. Next is a plague or a pandemic. We bug in, right? This is something that we've had to deal with recently, and we had to bug in, right? And we still had to go to work. We still had to do what we do. We still had to make sure that the lights came on. We had bills to pay. So we bugged in, and we did the best we could with what we had. The next one is internet collapse. Now, this is something that I've been preparing for quite a while. It's been years, actually, because all it would take is for the internet to just go away and people's whole lives would be ruined. The online banking, the online transactions that happen in stores, if the internet were to just go down, even if it was just for a few days, it would completely ruin people's lives. And so that is something that I prepare for. It's something that I really think about a lot. I don't want to be reliant on the internet. I want to make sure that all of my finances, all of the things that I rely on are within my possession and not stuck on the internet. Biological, again, we'd bug in. There's really nowhere to go. One of the things that we've talked about a lot with some of these is even if we wanted to bug out, where would we bug out to? And a biological warfare is one of those situations where we really would have nowhere else to go. It's in the air, it's happening, and so it's where do we go? A CME, which is a EMP, but from a solar flare. Again, we would bug in because if it happens at a global level, there's nowhere to go. There isn't going to be someplace where we can go to get electricity. And if there is, it's going to be overpopulated, overcrowded. We're not going to have access to the things we want to have access to anyway. And so again, we need to stay here. We need to figure out what we can do with what we have. Sewage backup. Again, we would bug out, but it's more of a temporary thing. Yes, it would suck, but we would have to figure out how to fix it, how to clean up, and just go back to living life as normal. Famine is something that it would suck, right? I'm really glad that I live in a farm community. I feel like I would thrive, even during the drought. Okay, last summer there was a huge drought. A lot of the farms lost a lot of their crops, but we still had stuff, right? The farmers market still stayed open. There are still people that are offering food. And so where I live, I feel like I have an advantage over a lot of other people, but it's still something I worry about. I still have food preps. It's still something that I really think about a lot because you can't store a lot of food. Like we don't have a lot of room to just put a bunch of food. And so it's something that I think about a lot. We would bug in, of course, but it is something that I try to think about often. Societal breakdown, we'd bug in. We'd fortify our home, and we would just stand our ground because the deal is I can't carry everything I need on my back. If we were going to bug out, one, where would we bug out to? And two, I have way more resources inside this home than I can fit inside my vehicle. And so our best bet is to stay here and utilize the resources we have available rather than bug out. And yeah, it might be, we might not have to deal with the situation as it's not going to be in our face as much, but our resources are going to run out and we're going to have a different situation that's just as bad. So we might as well stay here, stand our ground, and deal with it that way. Economical collapse, we would bug in. If there was no more money, we would have to barter, we would have to trade. But the other thing is, we don't have to pay our bills, right? Nobody else has money. If there was an economic collapse, everybody would be out of work, everybody would be out of a job, no one would be paying for anything, right? And so it's important that, one, we have tools that we need to help ourselves and take care of ourselves, but help other people as well, because time is easier to trade than a physical good. Because once that physical good runs out, what are you going to trade? Right? If I can come and I can help you fix your vehicles, right? I can help you fix your vehicles as long as there's broken vehicles. I can always trade a few hours of my time for whatever it is, whatever physical item you have, or whatever help you can offer me. And so I feel like it's very important to have skills that you can barter with rather than physical, tangible items. Pre-Civil War, bug in. Of course we would bug in. During the Civil War, we would probably have to fight. We would probably have to participate in that. But pre-Civil War, when everything's escalating and getting bad, we would bug in, and we would have to have that radio. We'd have to have that information so we would know where to assemble, make sure that we're standing on the right side of freedom, the right side of the people that are fighting for what's right and not the opposing side. And so again, the access to information is a very important part of all of this. Next is volcano eruption. Again, in Minnesota, we don't really have to worry about that except maybe Yellowstone. But again, we would bug in. We wouldn't really have anywhere to bug out to. Radiation. This one got me thinking because talking about radiation, like seeping into the soil, ruining our crops, seeping into the rivers and lakes and streams, seeping into our tap water, that kind of got me worried. But again, if you have access to that information, it's probably not everywhere, right? And so if you have the information, you can bug out and you can go to where it is safe. You can buy food, you can buy stockpile on water and stuff from the safe location, bring it back to your home location. And so it probably wouldn't be as bad as it initially seemed. But again, it's something that the more if it's what is the radiation, what is causing it, what is doing it, what is leaching into everything, where is it coming from, right? How do I know how to test for it? How do I know this, that, and the next thing? The information is what's going to make it easier. And so, yes, it sucks right now, but the more I study it, the more I read about it, the more I research it, the less of a big deal it kind of becomes. Civil unrest, this is something that I personally didn't have to deal with, but a lot of people I know had to deal with in Minneapolis during the rioting and the looting and the fires and everything. It was crazy. And having known people that lived through that and how scary it was, and they bugged in, right? They bunkered down, they bugged in, because the truth is as people were trying to leave their homes and flee, the protesters and the people causing the civil unrest were attacking them, right? They didn't want them running away from the problem. They wanted them to face the problem and change and do the right thing, and they weren't doing the right thing to achieve the right thing, which didn't make any sense. But in the panic, so you had to bug in. You had to lock up. You had to bug in. And the decision that became the most difficult was, do you turn your lights on and let everybody know that you're home and that you are inside that building and potentially become a target? Or do you turn all the lights off and act like nobody is home, in which case if they think no one is home, your home might become a target, right? And so it was this mental thing where I don't know what the right decision is. I don't know what decision I would make in that situation, but hopefully through talking about it, hopefully through going through this list with you, you can leave in the comment section what you would do, and hopefully we can come up with a good decision, because when it comes to civil unrest, it was a scary time. And hopefully we don't have to go through it again. Next is chemicals. Again, chemicals leaching into the ground, chemicals leaching into the water. This is where knowledge is power again. What is the chemical, right? Can I filter it out? I have filters. If I have a filter that can filter out those chemicals, I'm fine, right? I'll be all right. But if it's something that we can't, where is it coming from? What's causing it? Is there safe areas? Having that information, having the radio access is key in that situation. Next is a hurricane. Living in Minnesota, I don't have to deal with hurricanes at all. Nuclear, we would bug in. There's really nothing I can do in a nuclear situation. Yes, you can get a bunker, but they're super expensive. I probably will never be able to afford a bunker in my lifetime. And so even though, yes, there are things you can do in a nuclear event, I can't afford any of them. And so we would bug in and we would just hope for the best, and we would try to do the best we could with what we have here. Next is a solar flare that takes out satellites, meaning no GPS, maybe no phone, maybe no internet. Taking out the satellites can really do a lot of damage. And so we would have to bug in. Again, we would have to do the best we have with what we have here, because where are you going to go, right? It's a problem that's everywhere, meaning there's no better place to be rather than here at home. Next is an EMP. Again, it's pretty much the same thing, except there's no power. We would have to figure out how to heat and cool our homes. And we do have propane heaters. We've thought about it, and the propane heaters are going to work even without power, right? And so having access to those things are really going to help us stay comfortable, even in the dead of winter, even when things get tough. We'll still be able to manage comfort even without electricity. We would still be able to entertain ourselves even without electricity. And so even though it would be difficult, I think it would be easier handling it here at home than anywhere else. Blizzards. Living in Minnesota, I deal with blizzards almost every single winter. You just bug in and you just wait it out. Once the storm passes, that's when you go out and you start shoveling, you start unburying things. It's not fun, but again, staying put is way better than being out in the elements. And then last is a ELE, which is an extinction level event. If there was an extinction level event, there's no point in bugging out. You're probably not going to escape it, meaning I would rather go in the comfort of my own home than panicked and worried and trying to escape and dealing with traffic and dealing with everything. I'd rather just stay in the comfort of my own home with my family and just wait it out and see what happens. And so the main things that I learned from this, I think this is a great list. I really appreciate the Urban Prepper for going through and making this list. And communication, knowledge, having the information, having the radios and the way of communicating with other people, getting information is kind of the key. Bugging in and being able to fortify your home. Of the 30, 22 of the 30 we would bug in, 8 we would bug out. And some of those, like hurricane, volcano, tsunami, we didn't have to worry about. We would bug out in those situations. Like if we were traveling somewhere, if we were in Hawaii or Florida, we would bug out in those situations. But here in Minnesota, here at home, we wouldn't have to deal with those. And so bugging in just seems like the best preparation for us. Fortifying our house, making sure that we have the resources we need here in the home, so that when we do bug in, we have the best opportunity to have what we need when we need it. That's been our focus since the pandemic, and that's going to be our focus moving forward. So make sure to thumbs up this video if it was helpful. Hopefully it got us thinking about things a little bit differently, and I can't wait to see you on my next video.